Sports anime is a genre that has been part of Japanese animation since the beginning of the last century. I am not a big fan at all of this genre, although I really love sports and I practice them, but in animation it isn't really my thing. But looking at the history of sports and animation, you can see that it's an old one, and you can find one big example that you can see with this animation from 1928 called the Animal Olympics, and that has spawned many classics like Ashita no Joe and Attack Number 1, up to the modern ones like Kuroko no Basket, Haikyuu, Captain Tsubasa, and the only sports anime I love so much that is Ping Pong the animation. So if you think about any sport, the chances are that there's an anime for it. So let's think about a sport, not a popular one around the world. Nothing about football or basketball or volleyball. What about rugby? Oh yeah, there's a rugby anime out there called All Out, and knowing that the Rugby World Cup 2019 is hosted in Japan, why not promote it with this anime? I mean, they did something similar with the 2002 Football World Cup using the franchise of Captain Tsubasa, calling the promotion Captain Tsubasa Road to 2002. Well, let me inform you that All Out had one season that aired in 2016, and for some executive reason the organization of the Rugby World Cup didn't see the potential of this, and instead decided to give us one more episode of the worst anime shows. Today is not only the worst sports anime in history, but a promotion that was supervised by the official Japanese Rugby Federation, and the results are simply beyond human comprehension. So let's see what they didn't try to do in today's worst anime, that is, Try Nights. Watching many kinds of films can be really tough to endure, so sometimes in my free time I decide to do other activities like practicing New Zealand's rugby national team dance, the haka. So like that, the Maori gods can help me endure this piece of dirt that I will talk about. I mean, I could be talking about things like Vinland Saga, Dr. Stone, or Demon Slayer, and this channel will have hit 100 subscribers already. Okay, I know, I am extending myself, but I will say this from the get-go. The torture I had with this was horrible that I want to forget it. I thought that Afterloss was the worst anime of 2019, but Try Nights takes the cake and try harder to surpass it, unless something wants to challenge it in the fall 2019 season. Try Nights is a manga adaptation of the same name written by Shunsaku Yano, but the author doesn't know a thing about rugby, and I will explain this in a little bit, because inside of this pseudo-sports anime, what there really is a laughable try-hard boys' love story, and to add to this disaster, the Japan Rugby Football Union, the official government entity of rugby in their country, decided to get help from two of the worst current anime studios that I already talked about in this channel before. This atrocity was made possible with the morons who brought you Conception and the hentai assholes who brought you Galaxy Tyler. This was produced thanks to Gonzo and Studio 7. Since mathematics don't fail, the cumulative rule also applies here, and I can assure you that if you have turd and you add another turd, you get a bigger pile of turd, and this show is the biggest example of that. See, science is everywhere! After finding this information, the biggest questions I have is how did they let this manga adaptation of the same name got to be accepted, and how did a sports federation approve that this should be done by the hands of assholes who are only good at making scenes where a male human and a female human drawings reproduce only for lust and not for making babies, and also they destroy legacy series like Captain Tyler. I cannot process how did a committee didn't see something wrong with it, not even a minuscule thing going wrong with it. Now that I let you know who made this, we enter our favorite part of these saga of videos. Horrible animation time! Be prepared for a CGI that excels at making the crap fest of Afterloss look like a masterpiece in 2019. The downgrade is so notorious that in episode 8, which is the stopping point I had for this mess in a little bit, but I still decided to continue watching because I'm a masochist I guess, they gave up and the producers decided to throw their Roblox characters. I was so perplexed by such ridiculous way of animation, and sometimes I was thinking that they did this as a try to watch before you close the video player challenge. Because there were instances that I was wondering if this character is emaciated or just drawn poorly. It is hard to believe that in 2019 something like Star Fox on Super Nintendo or any Super Nintendo game using the FX chip looks better than this, and that was the 90s. Heck, for all of you haters of Panzer Dragoon, this 90s CGE looks better than this, and just let me remind you that this show was supervised by the Japan Rugby Football Union. Well, besides having people using old technology to make CGI and making it even worse, what is the premise of this thing? If you have watched any typical sports anime, you already know. It is about this rugby school club that wants to get better, but they don't have certain key player positions, so this guy enters to the club despite having lost his practice after an injury that occurred many years ago. And they want to prove that they are the best of their region so they can defeat the Elite 3. Sorry, there's no Elite 4 here. And that's the premise of this piece of garbage. One of the things that really annoy me and anger me as a sports fan and for sports anime standards, the producers and manga authors don't know a thing about rugby in general. In shows like this, explaining the rules is one of the basics if you want to attract more people to play such a sport. But here, they just search rugby on Google and rub it through their asses because these producers don't know that rugby has many variants. Is it rugby union, rugby league, rugby sevens? Because I barely see more than 7 players in this team, but apparently it is rugby union. Well, thanks for at least telling us about the different ways rugby is played, Tri-Knights. Maybe you should try harder. Also, they don't know the rules of this sport even though they hire a professional rugby player to explain the rules after each episode ends, but they don't implement them properly in any instance. The biggest issue I have with this crap is that in rugby union, for example, this is what they call a scrum in Tri-Knights, which looks nothing like a real scrum, and it looks more like a maul, which is this thing. And I know this may be nitpicking, but if a sports federation is supervising this project, and not because this show is called Tri-Knights, shouldn't the rules be clear as possible? Even the little I know about over-the-top sports anime like Inazuma 11 with their crazy techniques, at least don't pull nonsense like this. Also, another thing, Tri-Knights doesn't even try to do something right, and they desperately attempt to create fan service of any desperate fan of boy love stories, but it comes out as annoying and really doesn't make the show even better. It makes it moronic, stupid and bland. It is just filler to kill time for this crappy promotion of a big sports event. I don't know if the Fujoshi bait is strong on this one since I am not the target audience for that aspect, but comparing to series like Kuroko no Basket or Free where the art style is impressive to even attract people who don't give a damn about sports in general, just shows the low level of ass that this is. I will tell you how to make over $1 million and a good rugby promotion. Grab the JoJo episode and the part where Jonathan and Dio are playing rugby, make it an anime, and boom, you made over $1 million, but I guess that is asking too much. To end it all, the question is why Studio 7 is trying so hard with non-hentai shows. I mean, if you look at their other works which contain sexual intercourse, they are regarded as one of the best in that genre. I know some studios started doing hentai at first like JC Star back in the 90s, and they suck at it, to the point that they produced that mom show that I could possibly talk about in the future. But with Studio 7, these guys are swimming in a gold mine if they know how to translate sex in animation perfectly. I may not know that, since I won't watch more hentai than the 3 shows I already talked about in my Suino Sora review, but the ratings seem to validate this claim. So why bother on these non-sexual shows whenever something from them comes out every single time? And the other part, it is sad seeing one of the producers that filmed my childhood in the now extinct channel called Animax and brought me entertainment with things like Black Cat, Kaleido Star, and even Linkin Park's music video Breaking the Habit has gone so low and asking for help to a crappy hentai studio for their productions. And to end it all, really Japan? Is this the way you want to promote the Rugby World Cup 2019? Let's see if they don't do something more pathetic for the Summer Olympics Tokyo 2020. Well, this is everything for today. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you excuse me, I will go watch some Rugby World Cup matches.
What to photo, you never see it coming.